Good. So our topic for today is cultural diversity. And when we talk about cultural diversity, we're talking about a range of different cultures within one society. So when we say a society is diverse, we mean that the society has a plurality of culture, more than one cultures within the same space. Now, Jamaica, would you consider Jamaica to be a very culturally diverse place?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Why?
sir.
What evidence you have to support your view?
Sir, due to slavery and indentureship, persons were brought here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have a mixture of Africans, Europeans, Indians, and Chinese. Um, Chinese, then you normally see them in wholesales. In
Yeah.
normally own jewelry shops, jewelry stores. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the economy is predominantly African. You can see Africans all over, and
Yeah,
Europeans are here and there.
that is true. So that is one way we could say that the society is very diverse. I was sharing with the other group before that while Jamaica is diverse, you have some other country, like for example Trinidad, who Trinidad that consider itself to be more diverse than others, uh, because of the mixture of the, well, you have equal numbers of the different groups. So it's 40-40 between Indian and the Afro Indians. And also you have what do you call it now? For the you have Chinese, a good number of Chinese descendants there. And same thing with Ghana. Ghana have the Portuguese, the Indians, the Chinese, the Africans. So they consider themselves to be more diverse, if we want to use that term. There are two places that I would, three experiences that I had that show some level of diversity. That was these places were very, very diverse in the Caribbean. And the first place I'm going to go is the Cayman Islands. So the Cayman Islands, they have roughly about 50,000 people, 120 nationalities working in the Cayman Islands. And so in Cayman, uh, I find Cayman to be, if you want to use it, we're going to look at this concept later on, plural society. But I think that the society was very, very diverse, especially when it comes to religion. You have this part in Cayman that is called Eastern Avenue. Eastern Avenue in Cayman with this shopping this shopping center. It's not really a shopping center, but it's like a mall, like uh on Eastern Avenue. If you walk in that mall, you have several different churches in it, right? So the churches actually rent a little spot, and there's a lot of churches along that Eastern Avenue block. The uh so one is that if you the Filipinos, those who are from the Philippines, they have their church. So you have the Filipino church. Then you have the Spanish church with the Cubans, right? The Cubans have their church. And then the other churches, like the Methodist, is there a Methodist church? They are doubt. The Anglican church, which is, I believe it is St. George's Anglican, it has predominantly quite a lot of Jamaican, uh, we call it now, Jamaican immigrants that go to that church. You have uh, the Cuban, the Filipinos, the Cuban church, and the churches that are predominantly Jamaicans, right? Now, these society, well, the Cayman Islands as their society is very diverse because in Jamaica, we don't have Cuban church, Filipino church, this church. Anybody come to our society just need to find a church, and the church is going to be uh, predominantly Afro-Jamaican nationals, right? But in the Cayman Islands, you have that. When I was there, and I said, if I want to go to church, I would say, all right, there's this church on close to the hospital, a Seventh Adventist church there. And I said, I'll go to that church. That church has predominantly Caymanians, one or two Jamaicans, but most of the members tend to be Caymanians and North American, like white North American. That church, their worship style was very different. So they sing three hymns. Uh, the pastor, somebody do the scripture reading, they collect the offering, the pastor preach for like 20 minutes. They sing another song, and church was finished by within an hour. However, if I go to another church, which is King's Church, that church usually is predominantly Jamaican nationals there. And that church, you have, it would take sometimes 2 hours to finish. They might play drum, they might dance, they might do all type of stuff in the church. And so you find that the culture is different. So that is one experience of cultural diversity, and that is within Christianity alone. When you go to places like Trinidad and Tobago and you go Guyana, you find that you have a multiplicity of religion, not only denominations, but quite a lot of religious groups there. Another experience with not racial, with cultural diversity was in the ABC Islands, right? Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao. And my parents used to live there, and I went there to visit them once, and I went to church with my mother. And in that church, they spoke about three languages: uh, Papamento, English, Spanish. Three. I think there's a fourth one, which is Dutch, but I can remember distinctly that three languages. Everything was translated in the church. They, so for example, if they sing in a song, they would sing one verse in English, then a one verse in Spanish, then one verse in Papamento, and then they do the chorus in one of the language, the other language, and so that was it. The sermon was also split within three, the languages, the scripture reading, the languages. And that this is one church going on where everybody within the church, some people cannot communicate with each other because I might be from Jamaica, which I'm from Jamaica, and somebody else from Cuba, and they are sitting in the congregation. I don't know Spanish, but the service of the church facilitate that diversity with all the different people living on the island. And so that was another example of diversity. Another experience I had was in Barbados when I was on campus. And the block that I lived on, you had three three Jamaicans living on the block. You had people from Belize, boys from Belize, California, the UK, which other country? Guyana, Trinidad. And so all of us lived on the same block from several different places, right? And so we get to learn a lot about each other culture from being there. So the Yui, not Yui Mona, I don't find Yui Mona to be very diverse. You have people from all over and from all the different Caribbean countries that come to Yui Mona. But Yui Mona and Yui Trinidad, which is St. Augustine, tend to be majority of their national. In Barbados, it's like 50% Bayesians and the other 50 is students from other countries. So there's this blend on the Kville campus. You get it is a very culturally diverse campus uh, in Barbados. And if you're choosing to study, people should try and go to that campus to study. It is a pretty nice campus to study uh, on, especially if you are doing law. Now, when we talk, so those are my experiences when it comes to cultural diversity. When we're talking about cultural diversity, ladies, we talk about things like language. The Caribbean has several different languages, several different religions. Uh, Even though we might be in the same denomination, we tend to worship differently based on our different societies, our country that we're from. The Caribbean has we have different customs and tradition, race and ethnicities, and various different music forms. Now, when I talk about race and ethnicity, race is something that is genetic, biological, in terms of your bone structure, your hair, your skin, but ethnicity is really talking about your racial or cultural background. So you could have things like Indo Trinidadians or Afro Trinidadian, those are ethnicities, right? Just like if somebody should ask you what is your ethnicity, you could say, for me, I am Afro Jamaican. My nationality is Jamaican. My race is that I'm African. Uh, but because Africa people overall do not like Africa, or we were misled to think that Africa is a very bad place. We don't use the concept of Afro Jamaican, or the Indio Jamaicans tend to refer to themselves as, I'm not even sure if Indio Jamaican refer to themselves as Indio Jamaican, or even, but one group for sure I know is the Chinese Jamaican that will let you know that they're Chinese Jamaican. So they will show you their ethnicity uh, and with their nationality. Now we're going to look at the negative and positive effects of cultural diversity, and this is from your textbook. Okay, so most of you have your textbook, and we're just going to go through it because the discussion, and see if we can find some discussions from it. So I'm going to ask somebody to read these 3 points for me, please.
I'll read, sir.
Go ahead for me, please. Thanks much.
Positive, no problem. Positive effects of cultural diversity. When different cultures mix, new cultural practices are created, resulting in interculturation. The means by which the creolization process occurs. For example, new genres of music like chutney and soca have been created in the Caribbean as a result of the merging of culturally disparate musical forms. Other examples are the wide variety of foods, methods of food production or preparation, languages, dress, festivals, and religious occasions, dances, French, British, East Indian, Spanish, and African. This is the idea of unity in diversity. People who belong to different cultures usually have different ways of thinking and analyzing issues from a variety of perspectives. Different cultures bring different experiences, which can be beneficial as they provide Caribbean society with a sound and vast knowledge base.
Thank you very much. So, what this is basically saying, ladies, here is that cultural diversity has its benefit, right? And so, having a lot of people from the same, having a lot of people from different cultures, for us in the Caribbean, it has helped to create our genre of music, right? Or the different genre of music that we have. So can chutney is one, reggae is also one that bears uh, comes from a multiple cultures that come together to form that music type. Also, the different food that we have in the Caribbean is also testament of our diversity. And another one is when you have people from different cultural background, right? We tend to know more about other people's culture. They tend to know about what people like, that the world is not just black and white, but the world is very, very colorful. So these are some of the, one second. Yes, so these are some of the positive effects of cultural diversity. Somebody else, I need someone else to read this for me, please. One second, I'm having a little problem here. I'm still here. I'm just trying to fix the system. All right, so could you just go for your textbook, draw for your textbook, ladies? Because what we're discussing is from the textbook until this computer sorts out itself. I'm going to ask someone to read for me. It's in your phone. I would have sent it to your WhatsApp. Culture. And it is page 129.
Sir,
Yeah?
I'll read it from migration.
It's page 129. So we are now at
Different cultural
the
practices.
positive effects. We're looking at the positive effects. So some I believe Christian would have done one, two. So different cultural practices. Yes. The third point on the positive effects. You
Okay.
go ahead.
Different different cultural practices among the a diverse among the diverse population can be shared, which means that different cultural groups can learn about each other's culture. This exposure to different cultures can lead to the development of tolerance and acceptance of different groups. People become more broad-minded.
Yes.
Bigotry, continue, sir.
Yes.
Bigotry and discrimination are viewed as unacceptable. People are tuned to recognize discriminatory acts and readily point them out for sanctions to be applied.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, I just want to discuss these 2 points. When it comes to cultural diversity, one of the thing with different when we have several different cultures together living in the same space, we tend to learn tolerance. Caribbean people, some island that is not used to cult, different people living together in the same space tend to be less tolerant. And maybe I was like that when I was here before I went and studied. But once went to Cayville and I lived on the hall, I get to appreciate everybody's culture. So, say for instance, if somebody is cooking rice and peas, right? Some people cook the rice and peas and some people put pepper in it, some people put sugar in it, some people do this with it. And you learn to appreciate people's culture and be tolerant and respectful. I remember returning from school one of the holidays, and I bring back some of the things from Barbados that I would have learned there, bring it home, and ask my family members to try it. And they were like, no, they're not trying it. And so they weren't respecting other people's culture. And I'm talking about I bring things from Trinidad, I bring things from St. Vincent, Grenada, Barbados, and they just refuse to try. They refuse to try the other food. It's like no this. And another thing when it comes to cultural diversity is that some people believe that their culture is better than other people's culture, or their country is better than other people's country.
Sir,
And you
I feel
can't
like Jamaicans are
go
like that.
ahead.
I feel
Repeat.
like Jamaicans are like that. They feel like we are the best Caribbean country.
Yes, we have that mentality. And it's not only Jamaican alone.
True, sir, because when people think of the Caribbean, they think of Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad.
And Trinidad, yes. And those three countries give the most problem in the Caribbean. Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad. And listen, when it comes to respecting other people's culture, some people just don't respect people's culture. You feel as if your culture is better than somebody else's culture. No, since I've studied, I've realized that cultures tend to be very similar yet different. And there's more similarities in culture than between other countries, especially Caribbean countries, than differences. That is just my view. When I went to St. Vincent, a friend of mine, his car, well, we are no longer friends. Yeah. So he his car broke down and we had to take the bus. And you know when I go on the bus, I swear I was taking a bus from halfway tree to Spanish Town or halfway tree to downtown. It was the same thing. The music, they pack up the bus the same way, and I was like, wow, cul- countries are so similar. Same thing with Barbados. They have their bus there, which is the ZR. And it is the same way how yesterday behave on the Costa bus here. I'm not sure if some of you know about Costa, right? Some of you take the Costa. Anybody here take the Costa bus to go downtown or go Spanish Town or go somewhere?
Yes,
Yes,
sir. I
sir.
know the poster.
Yeah. So if you know how the culture, the bus, or them pack up the bus and the loud music and everything, it's the same thing. The only difference between, I'm not sure if Jamaica is like that. Uh, on the Costa bus now, they play rude music on the bus.
Yes, sir. Load.
Okay,
That's all
all
the
right.
music.
Oh, they actually still do. Okay, all right. So it's the same thing, just like how you hear the bad word, the songs with the indecent language and all of these different stuff is the same thing. If you go from some of the different islands, they have that same culture. Next, I think this is on the screen. Yes. Somebody, could you read these two slides for me, please? Positive effects.
There can be there can be a relatively peaceful coexistence of different groups within the society, which can translate into an enrichment of culture. For example, many traditional festivals in the Caribbean are now shared among the various communities to include other cultures and feature different foods and cultural crafts items. For instance, during the festivity.
Somebody, could you finish for me, please? I think there's something wrong with your internet.
Sure, sir. I'll continue.
Thanks.
During the festivities at Diwali, a Hindu festival, items from both Black and Indian culture are on display and sold. Cultural diversity aids tourism, which a lot of Caribbean countries depend upon to survive. Tourists are intrigued by the diversity of the Caribbean and enjoy traveling to a place where multiple cultures can be experienced.
Very good. So, as you see right here, cultural diversity has its positive on our Caribbean. Thank you very much. The last two positive effects, could I get somebody to read for me, please?
I'll read,
I
sir.
read.
Go ahead.
Okay. Diversity can enhance and export markets. Products of significance, such as curry and spices, are marketed and sold under the diversity umbrella. A reputation for diversity and tolerance can encourage immigration from other communities, which can serve to further enrich society generally. Many ethnic groups migrate to the Caribbean knowing that they will be accepted, offering their skills and resources to the region. For example, Trinidad has a sizable Syrian Lebanese population, and many Asian groups continue to arrive in Jamaica, establishing businesses on the island.
Yes. Do you realize that there's a lot of Asian uh, people from the Philippines that own stores now in Jamaica, right? And yeah, you ladies, you don't go and shop. So you don't know about the Philippine
Plain inside.
stores. They sell very cheap clothes and household products.
Sir, where?
They're all over the place.
Okay, sir.
The Philippine store. Anybody here from Spanish Town? Anybody know Spanish Town?
Yes, sir, we know of Spanish Town.
But have you ever been there? You know the shopping mall. There are two shopping centers or three in the main town. In
Uh,
if you're going,
I've probably driven past it, but I wasn't paying attention. Probably.
but most of them the stores in there are owned by I- Filipinos in the malls there, and they sell very cheap furniture. If you go downtown, downtown is another example. If you go and shop downtown, most of the Indian stores downtown are not original Jamaican Indians, but immigrants that come into Jamaica. And one of the reasons why, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask if it's like Kemlani.
Yes, that is a perfect example. Thank you very much. The that store, they have one in Manor Park and one downtown. And if you realize that for those stores, you'll find they sell very reasonable things and they come and set up their business here in the Caribbean, especially in Jamaica. They are all over the Caribbean, in fact. They are not only here, they are all over the Caribbean. They are in Barbados, they are in Trinidad, they St. Vincent. And one of the reasons why they come into the region is that they find that the people in the region are very acceptable because of the diversity of cultures that we have here in the Caribbean, right? Now let us look at some negative effects of cultural diversity. I'm going to ask someone to read this for me, please.
I'll read it, sir.
Go ahead.
Negative effects of cultural diversity. When different cultures mix, it can give birth to new cultural practices. Therefore, there is a greater risk for erasure of cultural practices and traditions, especially of ethnic minorities or subgroups in society. For example, no one really knows the true method of preparing meat that the Tainos call barbecuing, as different ethnic groups have added their own style to the mix. The existence of different cultures can lead to racial or ethnic discrimination.
Very good. Later, I'm going to use two examples. So when culture mix, people tend to, some groups, culture, the dominant culture tends to prevail, while if you are from a minority group within the society, your culture tends to be erased. The Chinese have maintained their culture here in Jamaica, right? Because they have their Chinese Benevolent Association and all of these. And they don't intermarry with others. They tend to stick to themselves. However, back then, there's this bugwalk in St. Catherine. A lot of Indians used to live in bugwalk, right? However, if you should drive through bugwalk right now, you'll realize that most of the groups there, most of the people that live within the area, they tend to have, they tend to mix, racial mixture between Indians and Africans. So the pure Indians that used to live within that space, the numbers declined significantly. They, so that is one example. If you realize that in our society, the Indians in our society tend to grow up, uh, they tend to have or immerse themselves into the dominant culture. So if you go right across the country, you'll find that the food, although curry is something that the Indian would have brought and we use, there are much there are other Indian food that that group have that the rest of the population, you know, doesn't use. For example, like what you call it now? Roti. Let us use roti for example. Roti is not something that is a popular dish in Jamaica. You have places that you can go and get roti, but it's not something that is part of the national meal. While in Trinidad, because you have 40% Indian, 40% Africans, same thing with Ghana, roti is a very dominant dish there that people actually use. Now, when you have different cultures meet together, while we have positive effects of it, there can also be negative effects in the sense that you can have racial discrimination. And this is, and not only racial discrimination, you can have racial or ethnic discrimination, but we also within the Caribbean, when you go to some Caribbean countries, they discriminate against people from other cultures, which is not good. I am going to show you, an article that just came out, which are example in Trinidad. This is something that would have happened in Trinidad well, about 2 weeks ago. It's not coming up. So this was up 3 hours ago, where an Indian doctor in Trinidad would have apologized for a statement that he would have made, right? And he's begging. So the newspaper actually said that the doctor, the medical doctor, in a leaked telephone recording, the doctor was heard making racist remarks and abusive language towards a former employer. And so in the recording, he mentioned that I would have wanted to play the recording for you, but because it have bad word in it, that's the reason why I wouldn't play it. But in the recording, he mentioned that one, that Africans were monkeys. He also mentioned in it that he did not want to employ Negro. He used the word Negro because if he should employ Negro in his workplace, in his medical field or medical complex, Indians in the society will not want to come. They don't want no Negro doctor Negro nurse to work with them. So he encouraged the people that whoever is going to apply for the job, you need to send a photo so I can see whether or not you are, your ethnicity to determine if you get the job. Now, this is 2020, and this is going on in Trinidad and Tobago today, right? That is one example in Trinidad and Tobago. And this is very popular. I'm going to send the article for you to read the article. And this is something that has been going on right across the board. Now, Another thing when it comes to negative effect is the language barrier. When you have people from different groups, you have language barriers in the society. And also, some people tend to view cultures based on inferiority and superiority. In terms of some people believe that their language is better than others, their food, their dress, their customs, their tradition, and that also cause problems within the society. And if we look at our education system, which is a negative effect, you realize that if I am a Chinese, right? If I'm a Chinese Jamaican, I'm in the school system, I would feel so left out, or even a European. Say if I'm a, not even you, but say I'm a white person and I attend one of these schools, I would have feel so left out because the dominant culture within Jamaica and other Caribbean countries tend to exclude other people from it, but especially when it comes to the education system. It is not balanced when it comes to the education system, right? And there's a lot of sensitivity and expression in terms of people tend to make very negative comments about people when it comes to their race. I want you to continue to read the positive and negative effects. They could ask you that in a test or an exam. Now, this is a very popular question. Is there a single Caribbean culture? You could argue yes, you could argue no. And festivals, if we look at festivals in the Caribbean, all of them tend to be very similar, but yet different. You have carnivals in Trinidad and Jamaica, crop over in Barbados, John Canoe in Bahamas, Spice Bass in Grenada. So these are different festivals that we all celebrate in the Caribbean. They might have different names, but most of it is the feature of it is people jump, dance, wind up yourself, all different type of stuff, and drink and just celebrate. So we have festivals. Next is music. Most of us tend to use the drums, the flute, the tambourine, especially in our churches. We have the different musical forms in the Caribbean. But all the musical forms in the Caribbean tend to have something similar. Is that one they explore topical issues. So if you listen to a soca, it is exploring an issue going on in the society or calypso. Same thing with dancehall. Even if the dancehall song is talking about gunman are go and shoot somebody. It is a topical issue. What it is talking about, it is a crime that is taking place in the society. The music, Caribbean music, are social commentary, not only for you to feel good, but it is commenting on a topical issue. And another thing with Caribbean music is that there's a preoccupation with the female genital and sexuality. Always talk about the female genital, right? When it comes to our music in the Caribbean. So these are some of the similarities when it comes to Caribbean societies. Next, in Caribbean societies, today this computer give me a lot of problem, man. All right, so another in our society is when it comes to our different traditions in our society. So in our Caribbean country, when it comes to Christmas and wedding, we use black cake or fruit cake. We use sorrel. We drink sorrel. We might do sorrel a little different, but it's the same thing. Sunday lunch, dinner, we always have rice mixed with peas or with something. Saturday soup, sweet potato pudding. Everybody do sweet potato pudding in the Caribbean. We have all those coconut treats, such as the drops, the gizzard. We might call them different name, but it's the same, right? Another is on Sunday, we tend to wear our best clothes. Another similarities between Caribbean countries is that everybody have dopey stories, and the dopey stories are very, very similar. And Nancy stories, even if we don't believe in Obia, everybody in the back of their mind, they believe in some form of Obia. And birthrights, in terms of, we in the Caribbean, we tend to have naval, when a baby actually born, you take the navel card and you bury it with a, plant it with a tree or something to that. You put some red card on the baby's forehead. You put some form of beads around their hand. You put the Bible over the head because you don't want Duppy to touch the baby or evil spirit, right? And we also have some death rites where we have wakes, 9 nights, set up all of these different stuff in the Caribbean. All right, ladies. So these are some of the similarities we have, and we also have some differences between Caribbean countries. So, ladies, please read the textbook on the positive and negative effects, and we meet again on Monday. Monday, when we meet on Monday, we're going to look at some of the different religious and festivals in the Caribbean that make us a very unique region. Enjoy the rest of your day, ladies.
Thank you. Same to you, sir.
Bye,
Bye,
sir.
sir.
Bye bye.
Bye.